Hello, happy Friday. Welcome on into Let's Bet It. Lauren Jabbar here with Jared Smith. Jared, it is Friday. We got that weekend feeling. How are you doing today?
Doing okay. It's kind of a weird night in the gambling world. Not a whole lot going on. Here in New York City, we just had a ton of snow hit the area, so it's like one of those weird, snow days, I guess, if you're a fan of that. But I know a lot of people don't like the wintertime. It's a little too chilly for them. But the markets today are a little chilly. It's going to be an exciting weekend, of course, with the NFL. But today, Fridays can be tough, especially unless you're really invested in the NBA, NHL, not a whole lot, college basketball, not a whole lot. But whatever's there, we'll get into it for you today.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. If you're down in the dumps at all, I'm going to bring you some good news. You want me
Give
to
me
tell you
some good
why
news.
mobile sports betting in New York will be
Ooh.
available tomorrow, this Saturday. We're going to have, so people will be able to bet mobily on their mobile devices from their homes. Mobile.
Well, how many times can we
exciting
get the
is
word
that? I mean, come
mobile
on
into
now.
that?
You'll love to see it.
You do. It's been a long time coming for New Yorkers. I've obviously been very close to this market for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I've been in very close contact, my local news journalism roots, with some of those state senators that have been lobbying for mobile sports wagering to become legalized in New York. One of them yesterday, after it went, the news was announced, I texted him, and usually when I text him for updates, he just texts me back like, "Hey, not much going on," because that's kind of been the modus operandi over the last 3 years. But I knew it was a good day when he called me back immediately after the text, and he was gushing about his team and working. It's kind of ironic. He said that ever since the new governor, Kathy Hochul's come in to the governor's office, and the gaming commission has kind of understood that there's a lot on the line here money wise. There's been a lot of expedition with getting this up and running, and it's a month early. The goal was Super Bowl, and they got it up and running a month before the Super Bowl. So kudos to everyone working on it. And I know there's a lot of feisty, impatient New Yorkers, which is a very normal adjective for describing New York City, impatient. And they will finally get what they want tomorrow.
Big step for the betting world having that available. It's going to be super fun. And they can test it out a little bit before the Super Bowl hits. So there's no like flukes or anything that are happening with that. So really exciting for you, New York. That starts tomorrow. Live mobile betting legalized. Let's go. You love to see it. So that starts our Friday off on a really exciting note. We also have quite a few NBA games today. So we're starting off looking at the NBA morning radar, seeing how the lines have shifted and things going on around the NBA. NFL, we have Howard Bender on. Talk a little bit about the games this weekend. Some exciting ones that I'm really looking forward to. The Sentry Tournament of Champions, 1 day down, 3 days to go. Jared, you have a couple really good bets for this one. I sprinkled a little bit on who I think is going to come back and be a winner. And then we can't end without our Pickswise play of the day and our 3-star bets of the day. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's bet it. NBA morning radar. Before we look at some of the lines, some of the spreads heading into tonight, Kyrie Irving made his debut on Wednesday in Indiana for the Nets against the Pacers. Thoughts on his first game back? He had 22 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. The Nets were down 13.5, and they came back and won that game.
He played great. The question is the consistency because of the games that he's going to have to miss. For example, tonight the Nets are at home, big game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He can't play. So that, to me, is going to be the biggest thing to watch. When the Nets go on the road for lengthy road trips, then I think his impact will become a lot more noticeable. But when it's a game on, game off, game on, game off, that makes it tough because not only does he have to get into a rhythm, but his teammates haven't played with him all season. Mm-hmm. And as you know, you're very close to watching these NBA games on a nightly basis. Rhythm, flow, timing.
Yeah.
It's so important with the rotations and how Steve Nash kind of operates that team behind the scenes. So we'll see. He's a great player, and he will have an impact in any game he plays in, but we'll see what the severity of that impact will be with the inconsistency of his playing time.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out, especially come postseason, right? Because when you're playing in a series against a team, but you can only play, at that point, is home court advantage, do you want it, right? Like, would you rather start away so you're playing more games? I don't know.
It's tough.
We'll see.
Maybe he'll get vaccinated by then. Maybe he'll realize that there's a lot on the line.
Will change by then. Who knows?
Also possible.
Come like April, May-ish time. So it will be interesting to see how things develop over the next few months and see how he plays and meshes with that Nets team. But he did look really good against the Pacers on Wednesday. Speaking of, they have a game tonight against the Bucks. The line right now, Nets laying 4.5. Have you seen any movement there in that one?
With the total, yeah, up from 229.5. I'm seeing some 231s painted across the market tonight. And I guess maybe that's a little surprising because, again, no Kyrie Irving, but that total is ticking up. The Bucks this season, they're pretty fast-paced, top 10 in pace. The Nets are also top 10 in pace. Offensive efficiency, Bucks are 6th. The Nets are a little bit further down on the list at 11th. So, that game doesn't meet all the criteria of a 230s total game, which is now where the number's hovering. But this is a revenge rivalry kind of game. Last year, these two teams played an unbelievable series in the playoffs. Obviously, the Bucks were victorious there on their road to the championship. But this is going to be a fascinating game. Obviously, anytime you have Kevin Durant facing Giannis, it is a fascinating matchup.
Playing tonight because he didn't play Wednesday against the Raptors. Yeah,
that's the question we have to ask ourselves.
The Bucks without or Connaughton, whatever, DiVincenzo and Allen, and then Giannis. He didn't play Wednesday against the Raptors, and the Bucks struggled without him. I don't know if he's playing tonight for sure. Maybe since the total's ticking up, but we haven't heard.
Yes, that usually I'm seeing Giannis probable here. Joe Harris out, Brook Lopez out, George Hill out, Connaughton, Grayson Allen, DiVincenzo out, Giannis probable. So I think that is a good indicator that he is playing. Total ticks up. Haven't seen any movement in the spread. 4.5 painted across the board, market wide. That's where the line opened. And I think that's probably a fair number, based off of how well the Nets have been playing lately. So the Nets are favored in that game. But the total is ticking up, and that would lead me to believe that Giannis will play tonight.
Yeah, another one. Let's take it north of the border, just a little bit north of the Big Apple in Toronto. The Raptors are taking on the Utah Jazz. The Jazz, Rudy Gobert officially went into health and safety protocols. He's only the second Jazz player this season to have entered health and safety protocols. For some reason, they've just avoided COVID completely. So no Rudy Gobert tonight, but the Raptors have won 4 straight. They took advantage of the shorthanded Bucks on Wednesday. They're only 10-10 at home this season, though. What have you seen? Right now, the Jazz are 12-point underdogs.
Yeah, not a ton of movement there. About a half a point maybe in some shops, 11 to 11 and a hook. We see 221 come down a little bit. 222 come down a little bit to 221 with the total. So slight move towards the home favorite, slight move towards the under. Listen, the Raptors are playing really good basketball right now.
Good.
4 in a row. They've covered all 4 numbers against the spread. The Jazz playing pretty well too. They've won 4 out of 5. They've covered those 4 wins. They've covered in all 4 of them. The one loss being the New Year's Day game to the Golden State Warriors. Maybe the Raptors are a little bit of a surprise team this year. We talked about them last year a lot because of their the Tampa Raptors, right? Now they're back at home, and the issues with the traveling north of the border. They're the only team where someone has to actually go through customs to get there. So sometimes there can be a little bit of a jet lag anytime you're dealing with that. Because these guys don't like traveling a whole lot. I know you're certainly on board with that, but it is interesting to see how this Toronto team has bounced back. Van Fleet's been incredible. The role players have been really strong, and that's why they're laying a big number. I wouldn't lay a big number like that with Toronto, though. I don't care how well they're playing.
You would or wouldn't?
I would not. No.
Yeah, no.
That's a lot of points to lay.
I would lean the Jazz in the points in this one. But another interesting point, Jared, there's going to be no crowd in that game. No crowd to feed off of, which is wild. They're the only team right now in the NBA that does not have fans in the stands. And you look at what the Jazz have been able to do on the road this season. They've won 10 straight road games after beating the Nuggets on Wednesday. And they did it without Gobert, without Whiteside, and without Ingles. They're 14-3 on the road this season straight up. So 12 points is a lot for the Raptors to be laying in this one, even without a guy like Gobert. I think that the Jazz are at least going to be able to cover the spread, if not win this game outright. The Jazz are first in the league in scoring offense, 116 points per game throughout the entire season. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. It is so weird having those games with no fans in Toronto. And
Utah is not a team that travels to Toronto very often, once a year. Yeah. And they didn't travel there last year. So, that can be anytime you take guys out of their comfort zone. You're traveling to a city you don't go to often. You're playing in a gym you don't play in often, and there's no fans. Mm-hmm. That is going to be a very unique game tonight from a betting perspective. A lot of unknowns, and that usually means pass.
Yeah. Another one I want to look at, Wizards Bulls. Bulls laying 6 in this spot, but the Bulls right now sitting at the top of that Eastern Conference. I know people thought they were going to be good this season, But right now, they're looking really, really good. The last game they won, these two teams played a little while ago. I think it was like 5-6 days ago. And Washington's going to want a little redemption because DeMar DeRozan had a buzzer-beating three-pointer to win that game. And now the Bulls are on 3 days of rest. They've won 8 straight games. They're going to come into this one motivated, hungry, but the Wizards have a little chip on their shoulder after losing in that buzzer beater like 5 days ago. What do you see from the line movement here?
Covering machine, the Bulls, although they didn't cover their actually they haven't covered their last 3 games. Because they were favored by a big number against the Magic. They just won by 4. They were slight favorites against the Wizards, 1 by 1. They were favored by 2. 1 by 2 against the Pacers, favored by 3.5. They haven't covered actually since before the new year. So again, the market has a funny way of catching up with these teams sometimes. Let's see what the market says this morning between Washington and Chicago. Painted across the board 6.5. Total though, biggest mover of the day, from 220 up to 225.5. That would lead me to believe that there might be some player news, positive player news, perhaps. I don't see a ton of questionables on the injury sheet today. I see McKinney's probable, Caruso, Green, Cook out for the Bulls. I see Dinwiddie, Harrell, Bryant, Holiday, Wanamaker, Waters, Gill. I mean, there's a lot of outs for the Wizards. Hachimura's day-to-day. He cleared health and safety protocols. But we'll see exactly if he plays tonight. But I wouldn't say he's a guy that would move the total 5 points. So that looks to me like there's some steam coming in on the over between the Wizards and the Bulls tonight. So that's your morning radar steam of the day so far. 5 points of fresh powder being placed on that over between the Wiz and the Bulls. So if you want to ask me what my steamy pick of the morning is, I'd say the over in that Wizards-Bulls game right now.
Whoa, Jared feeling steamy, spicy. Speaking of spicy, let's head to the NFL and bring in our friend Howard Bender, the head of content for Fantasy Alarm. You can find him at Fantasy Sports Radio on SiriusXM and the Ante Up podcast. Bring him on in, guys. Howard, where are you at?
There he is.
Hey, yo.
Hey, yo. You can't get enough of me, Howard. You did the show last night, and now you're back on with me today. It's like we're magnetized here in the betting world.
Right, yeah. I'm here because of you, Jared. Absolutely, 100%. 100%. Oh, boy.
Howard, happy Friday. Oh, my God, I'm dead. Happy Friday. It's the weekend. I told Jared we're feeling good. We got the weekend vibe. Are you vibing?
Saturday NFL, too.
I'm definitely vibing on the weekend, right? Week 18 closes out the regular season. We got a lot of really interesting games, little interesting matchups here, but for me, it's like, it's all about the fantasy season is over. So this is like 100% DFS and 100% laying down bets. So I'm super stoked about what we got coming up.
It's like the epilogue for fantasy. See, you guys finish the year. Do you do a victory lap at all this week when the season's over?
I told people to draft Mike Davis this year, so there's no real victory lap for me in that, because that pick right there negates probably like 5 or 6 really good calls.
That's fair.
I love it. Okay, before we get into your picks, because I know you have quite a few of them heading into this weekend, this is Jared's favorite time of the year, the player contract incentive props. Do you also dive into player contracts, see where you can find an edge kind of when clicking? Wow, I can't speak today.
You're good. Take a deep breath. You're all right.
Player props. Say that 5 times fast. Picking player props.
I'm feeling the vapors too a little bit here, so don't worry. I mean, listen, I'm a little stammering and stuttering too. I don't know. I do love the player prop incentives. You have to pick and choose certain ones, but when you're looking at guys like Stephon Diggs only needing 6 catches for $1.55 million. That's a prop I'm definitely looking at. When you're looking at a guy like Gronk, who is he's 7 catches away from $500,000. He's 85 receiving yards away from $500,000. And I'll tell you what, it's Carolina that they're facing. Could he hit that third, 3 touchdown prop for him for another $500,000? I think he and Brady could go out on the town in style with that 1.5 million right there.
The issue too is, I've been scanning the board this morning and I'm doing an article that'll drop today on Pickswise. Hopefully it'll drop today if we get some of these numbers, but I do feel that the sports books are aware and they will probably, conceal their hand for as long as possible, because once those prop numbers do drop, Howard, it's like a race. It's a race to get there before they move. And everyone knows what it's not like we're uncovering, discovering gold for the first time. Everyone knows that these contract incentives exist. And it's a tough week to really beat the market to it. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Let's get to some of your picks for the weekend. I actually see you and Lauren aligned on some of these games. Yeah. A lot of plus signs. Yeah, go figure. You guys are the smartest ones, right?
The underdog weekend, baby.
It is. So let's start with the Dolphins, because to me that game is intriguing. Miami has owned this New England team in Miami. They beat them already this year. They beat them a couple years ago when the Pats were going for that first round bye, and they knocked them down to like the ranks of the middle ranks of the playoff teams. And Tua's been okay of late, but last week he was not great. Last week was bad. The prior weeks were good. Are we going to get good Tua this week, or are we going to get bad Tua this week against this Pats defense?
I don't really think you're getting any, good Tua. I don't even think there is a good Tua unless you want to go back to college, right?
Fair.
Listen, this is going to be a lot of the Miami defense, and this is going to be, they say they don't do it, but there's going to be some scoreboard watching. Mm-hmm. What incentive do the Patriots have? They look up at the scoreboard knowing that Buffalo is up 31-7 on the Jets right now, Mm-hmm. So, the games are being played at the same time. So I don't really have too much confidence in the starters for New England playing this entire game. And, let's not forget, Miami won 7 games in a row. Yeah. Before last week's debacle. And, listen, last week was atrocious looking, and the defense didn't look good either. But, I don't know. Should they be a 6-point underdog here to New England? I don't necessarily think so. I think it's a bit of an overreaction to last week's New England win, Miami's loss. Yeah. And then, not factoring in the fact that, for the second half, I don't even know who the backup is to Mac Jones. I don't even know if that player actually even exists. So
Brian Hoyer? Is it still Hoyer?
Oh, is it still Hoyer?
I don't know.
I remember when he was playing, Pepsi was a nickel.
Yeah, right. I will say this about this game. This game would be a good live betting spot, because if the Pats do get off to a fast start, mm-hmm. and then they see at halftime the Bills are up whatever the score is against the Jets, that will be a moment that I would look to bet the Dolphins, because you're right. Then there might be some, let off the gas pedal in the second half. I feel the same way about a couple of other games that hinge on results happening across the league, like the Rams-Niners game, which I know you're also interested in.
Wait, I want to talk about my pick, Jared. You're going past me right now.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah,
okay. I love everything that Howard said too. For me, I was looking at some of these stats. Since 2013, the Pats are 2-6 when traveling to Miami. First of all, I wonder why. I feel like the players are going out in Miami. They haven't been able to win there, even with Tom Brady. How can we expect Mac Jones to do much better? And also, I love the Dolphins defense. They excel at blitzing quarterbacks, which they do on 40% of their defensive plays. And Mac Jones just hasn't seen that type of pressure this season. I was looking at how many times he has been pressured like that. Only been pressured on about 28% of his dropbacks. But when he is, his turnover-worthy play percentage rises from 2 to 3.7. So I love the fact that the Dolphins defense is going to be able to shut him down. The Pats, if the Bills are going to be crushing the Jets, which, we can all expect that that's what's going to happen. They're not going to be playing a lot of their players in the second half. We're getting a little bit less than a touchdown. So I just like the Dolphins, especially since the Pats are going to rest starters in the second half. We'll see. We'll see what happens, but I like that spot too. Okay, now let's go on to 49ers taking on the Rams. Please tell us, Howard. Let us know.
I'm looking at the 49ers here, right? It's a win and you're in situation for them. Shanahan usually plays opposite McVay pretty tough. I feel like the game can stay relatively close in this one. They've had a couple of games. The 49ers have had the Rams number in the last couple of games. I think they've won 4 out of the last 5. I look at this and I say, all right, the Rams are, not necessarily going to be scoreboard watching, but they don't need this game as much as the 49ers do. So I think this one here, I think the 49ers can jump out to a little bit of an early lead. Stafford started off extremely sluggish now in the last couple of games there. I don't know really what's going on with him, if he's feeling complacent because he's like, oh man, this isn't Detroit anymore, I'm actually got to save something for the playoffs. or if, he's just really getting off to these slow starts in the first half. So, if San Francisco can get out to like at least a bit of an early lead, then they'll run the ball and the game will get close. San Francisco might give up some points, and maybe the Rams come back at the, late in the game here, possibly. But this one's definitely not. Was it like 4.5 points the Niners are getting?
Yeah, 4.5.
I'll be happy with the field goal game, and I'll take the points in that one.
I like that too. And honestly, I think the last time that these two teams played, like, turnovers were one of the biggest things. Stafford threw a couple of picks. The 49ers quarterbacks aren't necessarily really strong, and OBJ and Stafford do have that kind of chemistry right now, but I think that San Fran's going to be able to keep it close. I think it's going to be an exciting game. Stafford, to me, just doesn't. I mean, obviously, I watched him for years with the Lions, and I was never a big fan. Everyone did love him, but now he goes to the Rams, and he still just doesn't look elite to me. I just don't think, like, I think he's good. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's a saving grace by any means. And I just, I know, sorry, it's hard for me to bet for him. It's hard for me to bet for him but for me, I think this is important because the spread could change. Do we know yet if Garoppolo or Trey Lance is going to start? It's going
to be Trey Lance. Garoppolo can't even grip a football.
Well,
that's what I'm hearing.
Is it officially Lance? Because if it's not
officially Lance, but I mean, you do the writing on the wall. It's Friday, and Thursday's practice report said he couldn't even grip a football.
It's kind of funny when it's in there.
Yeah, I think that's a prerequisite for playing quarterback in the NFL.
You have to be able to hold on to a football. Last time I checked. I do love this Lions spread that you're betting this week, because every week, Howard, I bet the Lions money line. Most of the time it doesn't work out, but 10% of the time it works every time.
Oh, I love it, right? The Lions are the Sex Panther pick of the week here. 100%. Again, it's a team that, Dan Campbell, love him, hate him, whatever it is, he motivates his players, right? He bites the kneecaps off of small children.
Oh, man, here we go.
Something weird like that. But, I'm sorry, Green Bay, like, I don't care if Aaron Rodgers is, needs top 3 in passing touchdowns in order to get $100,000. I think Aaron Rodgers has $100,000 like rolled up in his sock right now, or maybe he needs to check the fine print of his contract, and maybe it's actually a candy bar that he's getting, because there's no way you can tell me that home field advantage of the playoffs and everything like that you've worked on this entire season, that these guys are going to play. I don't care what Devontae Adams says. You scared? Go to church. No, it's not scared. It's stupidity. There's no way these Green Bay starters play more than a quarter, if that at all. I'll take the Lions. I don't even care if they win it or not. I'm sorry if you're going to take the money line
every week. But
here's the question that I have: even if Aaron Rodgers sits, is Jordan Love still a better quarterback than Tim Boyle? Because I think it's going to be Boyle and not Goff, at least unless Goff improves his health. We haven't heard very good things coming from the Lions camp this week about Goff's practice status, but we'll know on Sunday. I got in here at +1 on the Packers side right when the news dropped that they would be playing their starters. I will likely come back on Lions +3 and hope for a close game, because I agree. I'm not fully convinced that it's going to be a long stint. It'll be kind of like a lather for Aaron Rodgers in this game. But there is something to be said about having 3 weeks off. So if you don't play this week, you don't play next week, then you don't play until the middle of January in the divisional round. That's basically 3 full weeks off from their last game going full, which would have been week 17. I do think there's something to that. And this is a Packers team that, let's look at what they did last year when they rested their starters in week 17. They lost in the NFC Championship game. Is that correlated? Probably not, but trying to break a string, a curse for this Packers team getting through to the NFC Championship game and then bursting through that glass ceiling. So I think there's something to the Packers playing a lot of their starters this week. But again, we'll see the length of that is the question for me.
Yeah, Big Ben. You have him, right? +4.5 with the Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers-Ravens games, you look at those games and they really come down to a final field goal. It just always happens, right?
It landed on 1 last time.
What's that?
It landed on 1 the last game.
So, it's just back and forth in this series nonstop. And, both teams have an incentive. They've got that outside chance to get into the playoffs. I just look at this line here and I say, all right, is Tyler Huntley's luck going to finally run out? Marquise Brown landed on the on the injury report really late in the week. So what does that tell you? I mean, is he going to actually be out there? That aged running back group of theirs of Latavius Murray and Devonta Freeman, maybe even the Steelers can stop that. I mean, I just feel like these teams play, super close with each other. I think it could be a low scoring tie game towards the very end. And then who cares? You roll out Boswell, you roll out Tucker. Both are good kickers. And if it's a field goal game, I'd like to be on the side of getting the points.
Yeah, absolutely. One more for you, right? Seahawks plus 6.5.
Big love fest in Seattle, right? It's not sleepless there anymore. No.
No more sleepless in Seattle, baby.
Right? And listen, anytime I can get a Nora Ephron drop in there, right? So good. But I mean, listen, you've got Tyler Lockett, who's 2 touchdowns away from $1 million bonus kicking in on his contract.
Yeah.
You got Russell Wilson, who came out yesterday and was like, I want to win Super Bowls, multiple with Seattle. I want to stay here and do it. And then DK Metcalf turned around and said the exact same thing. I don't think that this is like them being coy or them playing any games with management. I feel like they genuinely do want to stay in Seattle, whether that keeps Pete Carroll, it doesn't keep Pete Carroll, whichever way it is. But, you're going to give me 7 points here for Seattle in a game against Arizona, who, I mean, which way are they, right? I mean, Arizona is a team that, they're already in the playoffs, so they could do a little bit of scoreboard watching as well, especially if the Rams are up on the 49ers. And, you're talking about an Arizona team where you look at Kyler Murray, who, if things don't go his way, he gets all pouty and quits and he sulks on the sidelines and he's kind of a about it. And, there's a team that was like, they were favored by 5. They were a 5-point underdog last week to Dallas and they win. Now they're a 7-point favorite here to Seattle. There's no consistency with Arizona. I'll take the team that's going to play its starters 100% of the game that want to carry some momentum into the offseason.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I want to get your take on one of my bets because I placed this bet last night and then I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, Lauren, why did you do this? And then I reminded myself of why I did it. I like the Jags plus 15.5. I know. Come on. I know. I said, you're probably laughing at me. You're like, this girl's insane. Maybe I am. The Jags lost 8 games in a row, defeated by an average of 21.8 points per game. Point taken. Okay. Point taken. So why am I betting them in this spot? The spread is just high for me. The Colts have struggled against the Jags. I was looking since 2016. The Colts have a 6-5 record against the Jags. They haven't beaten them twice in one season since 2014. The last time the Colts won in Jacksonville was in 2014. They've lost 6 straight since then at TIAA Bank Field. So I know the Colts have the better roster. I know Jonathan Taylor is going to run all over the Jags. I know the Colts defense is going to give Trevor Lawrence a really, really hard time. But is that enough to trust them by 2 touchdowns? I don't think so. The Colts have only done enough. The Colts have only done that once in the last 12 meetings, beat them by more than 14 points. The Colts won earlier this season. I definitely think they're going to win this game, but I like getting 15.5. Howard, tell me that I'm crazy or tell me that I'm not crazy, please.
I can't lay that kind of a judgment on you, Lauren. I really can't because like you set up a perfect argument as to why you make that pick. And then I just look at the Jaguars and I'm like, man, these guys just look terrible right now. They look awful. But yeah. I mean, the Colts have, they have let their foot off the gas at the end of games, and they have let teams, kind of crawl back into there. So I guess the question is do they just try to run the clock out and run the ball with Jonathan Taylor, get the win, let Nyheim Hines take it the rest of the way, kind of sit people once the game is in hand? It's possible. I hate laying 15 points. That's a lot for me to do. So I'll tell you what, I won't say yay or nay on this pick, but I will keep my fingers crossed for you. I will read The Secret tonight, and I'll put that energy out there that you win your bet. But other than that, I can't really get on board.
I appreciate the positive vibes. Thank you, Howard. Hey, it's okay. Quick question for you. Who would you pick for MVP this season?
I mean, how do you not give it to Aaron Rodgers? I
Right?
mean, really, this whole stuff with Hub Arkush, the Chicago Bears beat writer. I mean, that's him pushing his own agenda, and that's the whoever he's writing is like, oh yeah, this is like the best clickbait ever. But I mean, most valuable player, right? Are you telling me that that the Packers would be 13-3 right now, that the Packers would be having home field advantage if Jordan Love was their quarterback, if any other player was their quarterback? I mean, what he does for that team is absolutely phenomenal. And, listen, you can make that argument for Tom Brady, but, Aaron Rodgers does it with, or did it all season long with less talented players than what Brady has. I mean, you've got Devontae Adams, and then, you've got a good, solid ground game. What else? Tampa Bay, they laid out an all-star team for Tom Brady. So maybe it's fallen apart here at the end, but I got to give it to Aaron Rodgers. I don't mind him being a jerk. I'm a jerk. It's all right.
We're all jerks.
That's a challenge actually going on around right now in the internet. Do you remember that song? You're a jerk. I know. You're a jerk. I know. Do you guys remember this song?
I
do. I'll say this. I'll add this. Does the MVP uncertainty and maybe the angst around the award give Aaron Rodgers a little extra motivation to be on the field a little longer on Sunday?
It's very possible. It's very possible. I'm still. Are you trying to get me off those Lions? Why are you trying to get me off those Lions?
I'm just reporting the news as I see it. Speaking of, Dan Campbell just announced literally moments ago, Jared Goff probable this week. So maybe that's positive for your Lions pick, or negative, depending on how you feel about Jared Goff.
There's that big of a difference between Jared Goff and Boyle. I really like. I mean, Jared. Sorry, I'm like
Boyle was pretty bad on Sunday.
I'm down on my Lions quarterbacks. That's more of like
the Lions were they were awful on Sunday. Now that being said, I think Seattle's playing well on offense, and that goes to speak to a little bit more of your Seahawks pick. So maybe that's not quite as bad of a result on paper because of just how well Seattle's playing, and the numbers back that up as well. I want to add one more thing too about the Rams game, because you mentioned about Stafford not being great in the first half. I have some unbelievable numbers on him. Actually, his first half analytics, he's like a bottom 5 quarterback, and he's a top 5 quarterback in the second half. So that tells me that Sean McVay is doing a good job making halftime adjustments, but we'll see how that lends to what the Niners do against McVay's offense this time around, because they've won 5 straight against LA. They own this Rams team. So that's going to be I think that's, to me, besides the game on Sunday night between the Raiders and the Chargers, I think that Rams game's going to be the game of the week for me in terms of chess match, cat and mouse, who's going to get the better of that very intriguing division rivalry.
I love
Very much looking forward to the games. Oh, this just in. Charlie Batch is going to be the quarterback for the Lions this week now.
They have a better chance, I think, with Batch than they would, or maybe put Morton out there and Herman Moore at wide receiver. Maybe call Barry Sanders and see if he wants to come off the bench and enjoy
the Lions
one last trip around the sun.
The Lions just do what, like, you remember the movie Slapshot when the Syracuse Bulldogs, they bring out all the old school dirty players. Yeah. Maybe the Lions just bring out like an all Lions team there.
I love it.
Herman Moore, I think, probably still could play a few downs.
Honestly, I love my Lions. I am really excited to have a break from them until next season. Let me just say that. And
you're not excited for the draft in 3 months when they inevitably screw that up at the second pick?
That's the Jets' job. That's the Jets' job. Thank you.
That is the Jets have 2 first-round draft picks in the top 10 this year. Can't wait to see how they do.
Both.
We'll see what they do.
On that note, Howard, it's been so great having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure here. Anytime, man. This is always fun for me.
Have a great weekend. Good luck with all your bets. HB in the house. That's Howard Bender, head of content for Fantasy Alarm. You can find him at Fantasy Sports Radio on SiriusXM and the Ante Up podcast. Okay, we're going from one field to another patch of grass that is also known as a course. And it is in the island of Hawaii, Maui, Hawaii, to be exact.
Not the West Coast.
Champions Yes, which we clarified yesterday is not
the West
on the
Coast.
West Coast.
Yeah.
It is its own entity, its own island in Maui. The first day of the tournament, Jared, was finished on Thursday. Cameron Smith in the lead, -8. John Ram, Patrick Cantley, Daniel Berger right behind him at -7. Do you have any live odds right now that you have a good value bet for the second day of the tournament at this point?
I'll disclose that I'm not betting these, but I do think that there are some intriguing angles if you look at the strokes gained numbers from the first round. So let's break down how I look at golf. Pre-tournament, it's a lot more about which horse for the course, so to say, which player fits the style of the course, which, metric maybe matches what the course is. Then once the tournament starts, I focus squarely on how you're playing and how your strokes gain numbers match up to what your score is. For example, if your analytics say you're striking it really well, tee to green, but you're not putting it very well, that means that there might be some upside to your number, and you might be able, because putting, if you look at golf betting in general, putting is a very volatile stat.
Yes.
The difference between a 1-putt and a 2-putt impacts your numbers and your analytics severely. And it's just one stroke. Whereas tee to green, it's a little more true to form. So I look at tee to green numbers and I try to correlate them to your putting numbers, and I try to find discrepancies there. Daniel Berger has a discrepancy right now. He is second in the field, strokes gained tee to green, but a little bit further down on the list with the short stick. So that means I think Daniel Berger, who, by the way, is second right now with Rahm, tied with Rahm at 7 under par, has a chance to continue to play well, because I don't think he's reached his potential with the flat stick so far in this tournament. Also, I'll give a shout out to our boy Dan Posner, because he was on Eric Van Rooyen pre-tournament at a very sexy price. And he has been right now third in the field strokes gained tee to green, and he's dead even strokes gained putting. So the fact that he is 6 under par, tied for 5th with a really good tee to green number, but a very below average, if not mediocre, putting statistic through the first round, that tells me Van Rooyen might have a chance to make up some ground today if he can get the flat stick going. So I would give you those guys, Van Rooyen and Berger. They're sitting pretty far down the list. Berger's, fourth right now in the odds at 9-1, so not too far down, but Van Rooyen's still 40-1. So you could do worse than, getting a slice of those two guys. Cameron Smith right now is having a pretty good tournament as well, but he's in the lead and he's plus 550 based off of, the other guys around him. I wouldn't fire at that number. So Van Rooyen and Berger are the two guys I would look at today. Maybe you want to play them in matchups. Maybe you want to just fire away on the outright numbers, but I think those guys have a little upside based on what their strokes gained tee to green numbers have indicated through the first 18 holes.
Yeah, I actually like a good outside pick for this one. I want you to look me up the numbers on Hideki Matsuyama, because he entered the tournament at plus 2,200. Now, after one day, he's 4 under par. Now at plus 3,300. I actually sprinkled it on him last night. I've always been a Matsuyama fan. I feel like he is in a good spot in terms of value, especially after one day. He's sitting at 4 under par currently. He won twice last year, including a major championship, and I just see a few more victories for him this year. He's one of those guys that's known for his work ethic, right? So he's going to try to continue that momentum from last year. And he has an excellent course history at Kapalua. Did I say that right?
Kapalua.
Thank you. Wrong
emphasis on the wrong syllable.
On the wrong vowel. Yeah, whatever. But he's excellent. He has an excellent course history there, not including last year. He finished 41st, but his previous 3 resulted in top 5 finishes, and back in 2015, 2017, and 2018. Last year, not really great because of bad putting. Great value. Love him. Love him at plus 3,300. I sprinkled it. Obviously that's a very outside bet, but I like to look for like a good, outside pick to this one. And I am a Matsuyama fan. He's currently sitting at 4 under par. What are his numbers?
Not great, to be honest with you. He's actually negative in strokes gained off the tee. He's slightly above positive in strokes gained tee to green, but based off of his numbers, very mediocre through the first round. And, that's not to say that he can't turn it on. He's Masters champion. He's had an
turn it on today,
season.
Guys.
Yeah, but I would say if you are looking to bet on a long shot, I would prefer to look at someone who is positive, strongly positive strokes gained tee to green. I'll give you one more. Brandon Grace is 4th right now, strokes gained tee to green. He's 4 under par. He's tied for 13th, and he's negative strokes gained putting. And that is a very strong correlation to me, because if you're striking it well off the tee and you're striking it well with your irons, but you're negative with your putter, again, the putting is the thing that's the most volatile. So you can go from negative to positive very quickly with just one good round, and that will slingshot you back into the tournament, because the putter is obviously where you do most of your scoring. Brandon Grace right now is 120-1 on the live board. And again, he's 4 under par, and he's 4 shots back in the lead. He's a guy that isn't one of the bigger names, so that's why his odds are so long. But again, the numbers, strokes gained tee to green, say he's striking it pretty well right now at plus 2.5, which is just a half stroke behind Jon Rahm, who is leading the field right now in strokes gained tee to green. That's the number I look at the most, strokes gained tee to green, and then you correlate that with your putting statistics, and you try to find a discrepancy there, because again, the putter is what can get very hot very fast, and that's how you can knock out some pretty low scores if you can get that putter hot.
We got round 2 today at Kapalua out in Maui, Hawaii, baby.
Woo!
Out
Beach.
in Maui, Hawaii, Sentry Tournament of Champions, round 2 today. We'll see how things finish out, and we'll break it down again this weekend. It's going to be exciting. Quick, before we get to our best bets, do you have anything on college basketball today?
Yeah, it's really not a great college basketball day, to be perfectly honest with you. There's only like 10 games, and most of them are teams that you'd never bet on. I will say this, the Ivy League will be something I will look at on Friday nights. Tonight's Ivy slate is kind of lame. Actually, Harvard at home against Brown, that's a good game. I just don't love the line movement there with Harvard, because I kind of like Brown a little bit, so I'm staying away from that. And then Columbia Princeton also tonight, a little south of me here in central Jersey. Princeton is laying a big whopper of a number at home against Columbia. In general, though, I do think there is one angle to look at tonight, and that's this Marquette-Georgetown game. So the total's high at 153. But when you look at Marquette, when you look at Georgetown, when I kind of go through the numbers of those two teams, these are high-tempo teams. Marquette's 22nd in adjusted tempo this year, and Georgetown's also in the top 30 as well. So fast-running teams, so I like the over, but Georgetown hasn't played since December 18th.
That's a long
and
time.
Marquette's coming off of that huge win over Providence, which we discussed at length on Tuesday. So weird spot for the over, because I think Marquette might be letting down just a bit after that loss, and we have no idea what we're going to get from Georgetown. So I would look at the live over in this game. I would watch the first half. It starts at 6:30 Eastern time. It's going to be a nationally televised game on, I think, Fox Sports, whatever network carries the Big East. And if it does look like Georgetown is in a rhythm early, I would be very willing to fire on the over pretty quickly. And that is, of course, dependent on how the Hoyas come out, because they've basically been off for a whole month. So we'll see how the Hoyas come out. But that total, because of the pace of both teams, is something I would look at. But because of the layoff of Georgetown, I think it's a better live spot than firing pregame.
The over is 8-6-1 in Marquette games this season, 6-5 in Georgetown games this season.
And that's because the numbers are probably so high, which is, which makes sense.
Little nougat to chomp on.
Chomp on the nougat.
We head into our 3-star play of the day. Who you got from the Pickswise website?
Yeah, we got the over in the Wizards-Bulls game, 221. And again, that was what we talked about this morning, the steamy over of the day. That's gone all the way up to 225. I'd probably be a little weary playing it up there. But if you're feeling frisky on a Friday night, Frisky Friday, that over has certainly taken a lot of money and a lot of heat. So I would look to that as the angle to attack in Chicago tonight between the Wiz and the Bulls.
Love it. Your best bet of the day.
I struggled with this. I really did.
I know it's tough to find a good game today that like you really want to place a good bet on. Yeah.
I'll be honest. This is probably, of the 4 months we've been doing the show, this might be my worst best bet of the entire slate. But that means it's going to hit, right? That's usually how. Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Blues Caps. So there's only 2 NHL games on the card tonight. I know you're talking about one. I guess I'll take the lead on the other. This total jumped. This is the only reason I'm betting this. I rarely see totals jump a full goal in hockey. This total opened 5.5, and I'm seeing 6.5 now. Yeah, that's rare. Usually it's a half a goal, and then you get odds that'll dictate the rest of the movement. But this total jumped a full goal. And we've seen since the restart, and I know you've been keeping a close eye on the ice. A lot of goals, a lot of overs since the restart. Pittsburgh and St. Louis played the other night. I know you were on this game with the Pens. They won 5-3. Game went over. Same thing with the Blues Wild game a few nights prior to that, 6-4. So the Blues have played 2 games since their restart, and they're both have gone over significantly, by the total. So, or two games since the New Year, I should say. The Caps played a tough game against the Devils the other night, 4-3. Prior to that, they played a very low-scoring game, which they did score 3 goals, but the Wings only scored 1. And before that, again, 5-3 right before New Year's against the Preds. So we're seeing a lot of games go over that 6.5 number. It's not my favorite play of the night, or it is my favorite play of the night, but it's not my favorite POD that I've given out. But I'd give the 6.5 to the over here. You're laying about 5 cents, which is favorable, and just hope that it's a shootout tonight between the Caps and the Blues in St. Louis.
Yeah, there was 11 hockey games last night, only 2 tonight. Pretty crazy. So let me talk about the other one, because you can't make one field left out, Jared, okay? The Flames taking on the Hurricanes in Carolina. I like the Canes 3-way money line in this one at -110. Calgary is a team that has wins in 3 of their last 4 in Carolina. Now they've had I think they had 3 or 4 games postponed that were supposed to be in Canada. So at this point, they've been resting for 6 days now. They're also really successful in games with no, but you look at Calgary team that has wins in 3 of their last 4 in Carolina, but they're also really successful in games with no rest. They played last night in Tampa. They lost to the Lightning, but in back-to-backs, they've gone 6-1 in their last 7 of the second half of back-to-backs, which is a pretty good stat. I don't think that that's going to continue today in Carolina. Again, like I said, they're rested. They've had 6 days off after all of their games in Canada were postponed. They've won the last 7 games following a break of at least 3 days. The Canes are 6-1 against teams with a winning record. They've dropped 1 of the last 9 overall. And I think they're going to be feisty tonight on home ice in front of a home crowd. They're going to be ready to go because they've had 6 days off. And I think they'll be able to pull this one off in regulation. I think it's going to be a 1-goal game, but I think that the Canes are going to come out, be successful in front of a home crowd, rested legs. They're ready to go, ready to get back on the ice, play some hockey. Let's do that hockey. Canes, 3-way money line, -110.
Don't hate it. You've been hot in hockey, so who am I to argue with any of your hockey picks?
No, I love my hockey picks. I love my ice picks. Yesterday, the Avs put on an absolute show against the Winnipeg.
That game gives me a bit of a, inkling, a nudging that those what do we talk about with the puck lines? Instead of 1.5s, we should be playing the 2.5s because more games are landing on 3 that are landing on 2. So that was an instance where you should have got a little more aggressive. With
you know
that
what?
1.5.
They were down 1-0 early. The Jets were up 1-0, and I was like, goal from Mark Scheifele, assisted by Andrew Kopp. I'm like, dang it. And then Gabe Landeskog came back, scored a hat trick. Good for him. The captain doing what the captain does best, and the Avs take that game.
You're not a fan of the Avs by any chance,
not at
are you? No. As you
not at all.
Yeah, right.
What are
you basically have a halo of Avalanche gear right over your head.
Whoops, it's okay. Well, that's it for us today. Lock in the bets. You love to see it. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. To all of our New York bettors, have so much fun tomorrow when it becomes legalized.
Christmas morning.
Globally. What?
It's Christmas morning for New York bettors.
It's Christmas Eve. Tomorrow.
Tonight's Christmas Eve. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, tonight's Christmas Eve. Tomorrow's Christmas morning.
Open your presents at 9 a.m.
Placing your bets from your mobile device. Super excited for you. Jared Smith, I'm Lauren Jabara. Best of luck tonight. Best of luck this weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.